Welcome to the new show, Toward a Solar Civilization, where your host, Naika Gabriel, introduces many experts who will focus on the development of spiritual consciousness, the importance of wisdom, love, and fraternity, and the living knowledge of the laws of nature and the universe. They delve into the profound and transformative ideas of Omraam Mikhail Ivanov that have significantly impacted spiritual thought and provide practical methods to awaken you in a more purposeful, conscious, spiritually aligned way of living. Here is Naika Gabriel, your host.
Have you ever taken the time to consider how much wisdom is contained in the most basic processes underpinning human life? Have you ever wondered why ancient Greek sages inscribed the maxim, "Know thyself," on the temple of Apollo in Delphi? It surely will be rewarding to attempt to understand how all of this relates to our own inner growth towards perfection. Hi, I'm Naika, your host. In this episode of the Four Sacred Sciences, Richard Kamendje will explore the spiritual sciences and their practical applications in daily life. He will take us on a journey through alchemy, astrology, Kabbalah, and magic. In addition to explaining why these sciences are considered sacred, he will share insights of a teaching that connects conscious nutrition with spiritual transformation, breathing exercises with cosmic harmony, meditation with Cabbalistic understanding, and conscious gestures with white magic. In a nutshell, he will be explaining how these sciences connect with everyday activities. I cannot wait to discover that. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Naika, and hello everyone. A warm welcome from my side to this episode on the Four Sacred Sciences. Today, I would like to take you on a little journey. Our discovery path will go through some of the things we are required to do or we simply do daily, consciously or unconsciously, to sustain our own life. And we will see that these apparently simple things deeply connect with sciences that have been established as bodies of knowledge with the aim and full potential to transform human beings. For example, every day we take in some food. Now, what happens during the process of nutrition? I bet you all know about it, but let me suggest we take a quick look at it right now. First, we absorb something solid or liquid. By doing that, not only we do feel good, and sometimes very good, but at the same time, we trigger a set of transformations, something that is referred to as digestion. During digestion, nutrients are extracted and transformed into energy used to make us feel strong, to power our body. And once this is complete, the remaining part of the food must be exhausted from the body. So we see that the initial matter that can be considered crude is in the end transformed, transmuted into something more subtle, but at the same time very impactful. So if we consider the concept of transformation, whereby we go from something basic, crude, towards something more refined, more subtle, then we really are in the realm of alchemy. Alchemy is known for being the science of transforming matter, in particular transmuting base metals into gold by means of the philosopher's stone. Now, there are many books, many reports out there that tell us about the achievements of alchemists of nowadays and past centuries. And there are artifacts that are testimonies to what they have left behind for the following generations to discover. A contemporary alchemist who provides a good account of the philosophy and work of alchemists is Patrick Burenstenas, a French alchemist. He has published several books worth reading that I only can recommend if you are able to read French, or maybe there are some translations available, and in which he shares the wisdom hidden behind the alchemist's quest for gold, which in reality is the quest for unity and light. He has also produced many exciting and fascinating movies in which he explores and deciphers the messages, principles, as well as techniques for a successful quest that alchemists have inscribed in many prestigious buildings and places throughout Europe, starting from the Grand Place in the center of Brussels, all the way down to Santiago de Compostela in northwestern Spain. Now, in the teaching of Omram Michael Aharonov, this is the master I will be quoting throughout, alchemy is considered from the spiritual perspective and is taught and applied to the transformation of oneself to achieve our own inner metamorphosis. That is done through the transmutation of our instincts and passions. Now, the obvious question is, how does it really work? In the science of alchemy, there are a few elements that are required for the process to be successful. First, we need a crucible as the place where everything is to happen, where the processes should unfold. And then we need the consideration of the two principles and bring them into action. The first one is designated as the masculine and the second the feminine principle. By the way, in the symbolic language, the masculine, that is the active principle, is represented through the sun, and the feminine, that is passive, through the moon. Now, these two principles are used in combination to act on the matter. A base metal, for instance, that is to be transformed into gold thanks to the philosopher's stone. So, you see, the first quest is the step leading to the discovery of the philosopher's stone as the enabling agent, the key ingredient. And this is the most demanding and most complex part of the alchemistical journey. Now, in spiritual alchemy, a similar process is being followed. We need similar ingredients. So we need to find representatives for the crucible. And that is nothing but the physical body itself. Our own body is a crucible in which we have all the elements that form human nature. Then we need to add two principles. Here, the masculine principle is our will, and the feminine principle is our imagination. Will and imagination. So using the combination of the two, that means will and imagination, meaning actions on the one hand side, the will, and the power of imagination on the other side, that is images that we form. We can actually act on all the elements that are within us, within ourselves, to ensure that the forces that are within ourselves are controlled, that they are put at the sole disposal and usage of our higher nature, of our higher soul. So this is, in essence, what spiritual alchemy is about. Transforming all the elements of ourselves, all the elements that are confined within what we call our lower nature, to be made available to our higher nature, to be used as ingredients to act for the divine, to act for realizing the kingdom of God on earth. That's the path of alchemy. When all are in a position, when we all are in a position to be beings with virtues and qualities that reflect heaven. So spiritual alchemy is nothing but the quest for perfection, And the key point in the teaching of Master Omram Mikhail Ivanov is the following. A good way to acquire the basis for this spiritual alchemy is to learn how to properly implement our food intake as a conscious process in which our thoughts, our feelings, and our gestures equally participate and positively support and influence the process of digestion. So according to the teaching brought to us by Master Omram Mikhail Ivanov, true alchemy does not consist in spectacular transmutations of base metals into gold, but in the spiritual transmutation of man's own matter. And if you were to ask the question, why should we do this at all? Then he would say, if a tree, for instance, is capable of transforming the raw mineral nutrients it draws from the soil into the sugar sap, which enables it to produce flowers and fruits, why should man not do likewise? Why should we not be capable of transforming the raw juices of our instincts and passions so that they produce a rich harvest of flowers and fruits in the form of vitality in our physical bodies, love and joy in our hearts, and understanding and wisdom in our minds? So using the parallel of what happens during nutrition, where food must, in some sense, die in order to generate vitality in our body, we can come to an understanding of the statement by Jesus. Here I quote, "Except he die, he shall not live." End quote. So summarizing everything we could say, true alchemy is about letting our inferior, our lower nature die in order for our higher nature to prevail. And Master Omram Mikhail Ivanov used to say, every time you act with wisdom and love, you put yourself under the authority of the Spirit. And so little by little, you form in yourself the philosopher's stone that transmutes every matter in gold. You are then not to look for the philosopher's stone somewhere else than within yourself. For there is no philosopher's stone more powerful than the Spirit. In the teaching he gave us, one of the many recommendations is to strive to reach the state of consciousness where we can perceive our spirit, our higher self, as an immortal, eternal principle, an entity that is indestructible and that travels through space and penetrates everywhere. And when we succeed in doing so, we manage to understand that nothing is more important than using this power for working on our own matter in order to purify it, to vivify it, and to resurrect it. And this is exactly the same understanding that the most successful alchemists of the past and the present have come to. Here is an example of a way to confirm this. Let's consider one of the most famous alchemist quotes. "If you seek to make gold, you will never find. But when you know how to make it, you no longer need it." This means that true alchemy has first and foremost always been about transforming human nature. And once this is achieved through many years of hard work of purification and cleansing on their own matter, which they describe as the dialogue with matter, the desire for materialistic possessions no longer prevails. Let us now move to the next step on our journey. And I would like to invite you this time to focus on the process of respiration that is so important and essential to sustain our life. Like with nutrition, respiration is a process of exchange between us and the outer world. We breathe in fresh air, essentially oxygen, and we reject used air, let's say essentially carbon dioxide. as a matter of fact, a key aspect in this process is the motion of influx and outflux. That is key to all rhythms in the universe. Now, I assume that you all know that in an initiatic school, every aspect of the expression of oneself is to become conscious. Hence, as Master Omra Mikhail Ivanov puts it, by striving to let the in and outflux motions during respiration become conscious in oneself, one enters into cosmic harmony, and an exchange takes place between the universe and oneself. So this is the way it goes. When breathing in, one receives subtle particles and influences from space. And when breathing out, one projects in return all the best there is in one's heart and soul. In the teaching of Master Omra Mikhail Ivanov, it is made clear that respiration is able to reveal great secrets to those who are able to accompany it with work with the thoughts. And these secrets pertain to the science of astrology. At the center of astrology is the zodiac. And in this teaching, the zodiac is presented as the book of the books in which everything is recorded. And the constellations and planets are hieroglyphs, the sacred letters which reveal to those who know how to decipher them how mankind and the universe were created, how they evolve hand in hand, and how their inner structure is identical. So you see, through the practice of dedicated breathing exercises within this teaching, the consciousness of the disciple is gradually expanding to embrace the entire universe. And by doing so, an intuitive perception of astrology, which is the science of the influences of stellar bodies upon us, develops naturally. An intuitive perception develops naturally, a perception of astrology. Now, why is this perception so important? That's a very good question. Why? Simply because in the course of his lifetime, every human being is influenced by each of the 12 constellations of the zodiac, and the influence of each constellation is quite specific. For once he has been born into the physical world, every human being is bound to follow a certain evolutionary path. He grows up, grows old, and dies. And this evolution does not depend on him, it depends on the 12 signs of the zodiac. Yes, and one can find first indications of this by looking into the general pattern of evolution followed by each person from birth to death. Let's give it a try. Where do we start? Of course, with the newborn. The newborn infant manifests itself through movements. It is constantly gesticulating and trying to touch and grasp whatever it can reach. As soon as someone comes close, it clutches his hair, his beard, his clothes. This is the typical areas, the vital energies bubbling out of the ground. What comes next? As the child grows, everyone is concerned to see that he has all he needs: food, clothes, toys, and so on. This corresponds to Taurus, to material possessions. Indeed. Then comes the time for the child to start going to school. He receives first his first readers and copybooks, from which he learns to read and write. He begins to notice things around him and ask endless questions. He is agile and active, running all the way to school and back. You will agree with me that this is the stage of Gemini, the stage of relations with others, of study, of minor journeys. But then before long, the child becomes a young man. He meets a pretty girl and gives free rein to his imagination, dreaming of his own home in which he and his beloved will live together. And he introduces the girl to his parents. What's that? This is the stage of Cancer indeed, the stage of home and family. In the next phase, the young man is already married and father of a family. When he gets home after work in the evenings, he delights in being with his children and joining in their games. In front of others, he shows how proud he is of being father. All of this is characteristic of Leo, who tends to dominate those around him, to make the most of the joys of life, and who is proud to show off his creations, his children. But later, life becomes more difficult. Burdens weigh more heavily on him. Money is in short supply and some family members are ill. The father begins to take all kinds of odd jobs in order to pay for the most urgent needs of the family. And it all begins to get too much for him, and, completely exhausted, he falls ill. He is told he must take more care of his health, live a more balanced life, and so forth. This is the stage of Virgo, obviously, which corresponds to work and health. Now, in time, things get better. The father's health improves. He finds a good job and starts to go out and about again with his elegantly dressed wife. Now he is in a position to advise others. Based on his experience, he gives prudent, level-headed advice manifesting the equilibrium of Libra. It sometimes happens that about this time, he sees his wife looking at other men in a way he does not like. He is not sure what it means. And it irritates and angers him. He quarrels with his wife, shows his jealousy, and threatens to use a gun or poison to take revenge. This indeed is Scorpio. Now he has promoted in his office. He has a senior civil service appointment or a prestigious professorship. In the desire to get to know all the countries and peoples, their customs and different ways of life, he travels widely. But he also feels the need to reflect on the meaning of his own life and finds himself drawn more and more to philosophical and religious problems. This is the stage of Sagittarius indeed. He grows older and acquires a considerable reputation thanks to his social standing and personal authority. And feeling secure in his position, he takes it upon himself to pronounce judgment on everyone and everything, so that, little by little, he becomes isolated from others. This is the stage of Capricorn, which corresponds to social rank, but also to a solitary life. Then comes the day when he realizes that he can no longer assume his usual workload. The demands it makes on him are too great. He decides to retire and starts looking for a younger man to replace him. And now that he is less absorbed by his work, he has more time to meet his friends and discuss spiritual subjects. This is the phase of Aquarius, of friendship and spirituality. And now he's becoming weaker and weaker, and so detached from the physical world that 3/4 of his being are elsewhere. He is no longer concerned with worldly goods or wealth, but with his approaching departure for the other world. He makes his will and leaves all he has to others. Sometimes he finds himself abandoned in hospital. This is the stage of Pisces, of sacrifice, renunciation, and trials. So you see, through a lifespan, we've been able to go through the whole circle of zodiac. And from a spiritual perspective, this is something that can be done consciously. And when considering astrology in the teaching of the Universal White Brotherhood, every disciple who becomes aware of his kinship with the universe begins to feel the need to cultivate his inner life in order to discover within himself that cosmic plenitude symbolized to perfection by the circle of zodiac. And you will agree with me that bringing such a process to completion can only be transformative and life enriching. Now, so far we have been able to speak about alchemy and astrology. And in both cases, we have been able to see that their true value lies in the potential they have to contribute to the transformation of human beings towards perfection, to trigger the process of metamorphosis, allowing the emergence and prevalence of our higher self. This is exactly why these sciences are called sacred, as they reveal the key to the liberation of mankind from the chains of instincts, passions, egoism, atavism, and spiritual death. And in doing that, they allow human beings to master their own destiny, to be the creator of a golden age on earth. But we have not yet explored everything, and there is more to come as our journey is set to continue.
Thank you, Richard. This is all so interesting. I'm eager to learn more so that I can start applying this knowledge in real life. But first, we're on for a quick station break.
Om Times TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. Richard will now continue with the 4 sacred sciences. He will explore the role of the intellect and meditation in understanding the Kabbalah, particularly focusing on the tree of life and its significance in spiritual development. Moreover, he will touch upon magic and show how conscious gestures and glances can influence different worlds and connect with various powers. Back to you, Richard.
It is now time for another step on the journey. And this time, I would like to invite you to look at something that truly is characteristic of human beings, and that is the ability to think. Thanks to our intellect, we have been and we are able to make countless explorations in the quest for a fundamental understanding of the visible world, of the universe, its creation, its structure, its inhabitants, with their characteristics and properties. In the 21st century we are in right now, not only philosophers or scientists, but nearly everybody, I believe, will agree with the conclusion that the role of thinking or of intellect is to extract the quintessence from every subject or object. Now, in the initiatic sciences, this process has a home in what is known as Kabbalah. As you probably know, there are different aspects of spiritual work, such as concentration, prayer, meditation, contemplation, and identification. Meditation is an activity of the intellect that strives to find its way into spiritual truths. In essence, if with the support of the brain the intellect is used to explore the physical world and establish its scientific understanding, in the initiatic sciences, the intellect is used through meditation with the support of the spirit to explore the invisible world and experience what is described in Kabbalah. As a matter of fact, Kabbalah provides a system that explains the creation of the world from a mystic point of view. This system is referred to as the Tree of Life, or the Sephirotic Tree. The Sephirotic Tree is a true synthesis of the universe with its regions and entities, as well as associated virtues, qualities, and properties. It provides a method to guide a disciple in his spiritual life and indicates the path to follow. It can help to avoid dispersing the efforts one devotes to his spiritual work. Now, it should be mentioned that this method is based on a profound and accurate knowledge of, on the one hand, the power of numbers and their impact, and on the other hand, the language of symbols and geometrical figures. For example, major symbols such as the Philosopher's Stone, the elixir of everlasting life, the universal panacea, the magic mirror, the magic wand, can be found on the Sephirotic tree. Eventually, it should be said that the Tree of Life provides a system with an angelic hierarchy, which makes the link between man and God. And as stated by Master Omra Mikhail Ivanov, for our good, spiritual development, it is necessary to know the existence of these celestial entities because they are like beacons on the path which leads us to God. So as you may imagine, in the teaching of the Universal White Brotherhood, there are numerous exercises for the disciples. Among those, there is a key one, and that is about meditating on the Tree of Life, on the Sephirotic tree, with the consciousness that it is within us, and that the only activity that is worth the effort is to let it grow and flourish and be productive within us until it begins to vibrate and to enlighten our inner being. Kabbalah teaches us, in addition, that a human being is created in the image of the Sephirotic tree. All the Sephirot are within him, with all the elements entities, activities, and materials. This is why true self-knowledge can only come through knowledge of the Sephirotic tree, or the tree of life. To know oneself, it is to know the vast dimensions of one's own inner being, with all its different regions and the link that holds them together. For the 10 Sephirot are not isolated from each other. They are united by the one stream of life that flows through them. This living link is represented by the 22 paths which join the Sephirot one to another. Kabbalah also reveals to us that in man, Malkut, the 10th Sephirah, has broken its links with heaven. This is why it is now necessary to restore communication. So, in the teaching of the Universal White Brotherhood, the work of a true disciple, therefore, is to restore this connection. And when the disciple is armed with true knowledge and has full command of all his inner forces, such as anger, sexual energy, and so on, the guardian of the threshold steps aside, and the way from Malkut towards the higher spheres is open to him. The first step is the Sephirah Yesod. As the well-prepared disciple passes through this region that relates to the moon, he is purified and becomes lucid, transparent, and clairvoyant. It is here in Yesod that man makes contact with the angels, the cherubim, the bearers of life. From Yesod, he moves on to the third Sephirah, Hod, the region of Mercury, where he can study all the disciplines of the divine school: magic, Kabbalah, astrology, and alchemy. Hod is the region of knowledge of all the sciences. It is in the Sephirah Hod that the disciple makes contact with the angelic order of the Bnei Elohim, known in the Christian tradition as archangels. After Hod, the disciple moves on to the Sephirah Netzach. This is the region of Venus, of beauty and grace. It is the home of all colors, forms, sounds, and perfumes, of all true artistic and creative inspiration. Netzach is the home of the Elohim, the gods that created heaven and earth. Now, once in the Sephirah Netzach, the disciple has studied the principles of creation and the forces that built the universe and man, he must go on to Tiferet, the region of the sun, and make contact with the great spirit of the Sephirah, who will give him a share of his light, warmth, life, beauty, purity, and so on. Here, the disciple must work tirelessly with light, infuse light ceaselessly into every part of his being, into all the bones and muscles and cells of his body. He must constantly radiate light all around himself, project light into all creatures, and in this way, he will one day enter the sphere of the sun. On leaving the region of Tiferet, the disciple must be a valiant warrior, a soldier of Christ, a gallant knight, ready to defend the truth with utter fearlessness and face every adversity in order to help his fellow man. Then the gates of the next Sephirah, Geburah, will be open to him, and he will become truly invincible. For Geburah is the region of strength and power. It is the abode of the exterminating angels. And when the disciple has developed a high degree of generosity, magnanimity, nobility, and love for mankind, he enters the region of Chesed, or mercy. Chesed transmit to man the heritage of all initiates, all their most marvelous discoveries, and the fruits of all their labors. And after the magnificence of Chesed, the disciple sets foot on the path that leads to Binah, the intelligence. This is the awe-inspiring, implacable region governed by the 24 elders, the lords of karma, who have absolute knowledge of all destinies. When the disciple reaches Binah, he gets to know the whole path that he has followed. For Binah opens the 50 gates of wisdom for him. In particular, the gate that leads to Chokhmah, wisdom. Chokhmah is the region of Christ, the divine world. In Chokhmah are the numbers and letters of the secret alphabet, which can be used to compose words, phrases, and poems, and to practice divine magic. Finally, on condition that he be predestined to do so, an initiate reaches the following Sephirah, Keter. This is the region in which forms no longer exist. The name Keter means crown, and its angels are the seraphim, those described by St. John in the Apocalypse. As you may now be able to guess, the completion of this reconnection work is a very powerful exercise that leaves the disciple completely transformed. Now, coming back to the 5 major symbols I mentioned earlier, it can be said that the philosopher's stone corresponds to Malkut, the elixir of everlasting life to Yesod, the universal panacea to Tiferet, the magic mirror to Daath that is not depicted in most cases on the Tree of Life, and the magic wand to Keter. So you see, we as human beings, we do make use of the power of our thoughts every day. We collectively create and generate countless numbers of transactions and impacts around the world. In a spiritual teaching, though, we are called upon to unleash the potential of our intellect to reach out to the most powerful and lightful entities of the universe, so that their blessing may descend upon us and humanity at large, and help us in the quest for perfection, in the work for establishing the kingdom of God on earth and the golden age. So let us now come to the final step on our discovery path. And here we will look at another expression of ourselves that we do through gestures or glancing. Obviously, all our daily activities are associated with gestures, some of which may be specific, purposely designed, others may be just random and unconscious. Let's take the example here of conscious gestures. What we can say and what we can note is that they are typically the expression of a given intent. When we greet someone, through the wish we express, we hope to convey something to generate an impact. I think that is clear. When we reach our hand to someone or raise it while saying hello, consciously or not, the aim is to contribute something positive to the life of the person greeted. So we see that whether we want it or not, gestures are always the expression of something from within that can be associated with our feelings or thoughts. Hence, depending on the nature of these feelings or thoughts, our gestures may be harmonious or chaotic. However, regardless of this fact, they will equally show an impact on the environment or the target once manifested. And what we see here is that throughout our day and life, through our gestures, we continuously exert some influence on our neighborhood or environment. And truly, the question here to be asked is what the nature of this influence actually really is. Now, in the initiatic sciences that cover all the aspects of human life, there is a dedicated section that covers the science of influences and gestures. It is called magic. In magic, it is noted that every gesture is a force that can act in different worlds. It corresponds to streams, to colors. It has vibrations and it touches beings around us. Furthermore, each gesture opens or closes certain doors of nature for us and connects us with good or evil powers. Therefore, it is said in the teaching of the Universal White Brotherhood that if we want to move forward on the path of love, wisdom, and truth, we must study our gestures and question ourselves as to whether they manifest those three virtues. Now, it should be noted that our glance, the way we behold, can be put into the same category as gestures. Surely, with our eyes, we not only can receive, but also give. Hence, in an initiatic school, disciples are also called upon to carefully monitor the expression of their eyes and ensure that they behold with gentleness in a way that leaves others free. Then this is magic, white magic. So it can be said that an initiatic school teaches us the following. True magic, divine magic, does not consist in commanding the spirits for the satisfaction of one's ambitions, but rather in putting all one's powers, all one's knowledge at the service of the kingdom of God on earth. This is the high ideal of every single initiatic school. And this also is what the teaching of Master Omraam Mikhail Ivanov reveals to us. Now, let us use the remaining time to draw some summary of what we've been talking about together. We touch upon alchemy, astrology, Kabbalah, magic as the four sacred sciences that underpin spiritual work. We have seen that alchemy is about transformation, sublimation, the quest for perfection, and we've also seen that if we want to properly understand this process, to genuinely master the process, we better start with mastering the process of nutrition, conscious nutrition, using our thoughts to support the process of eating and digesting. And then we've seen that astrology is about the influences that come to us through in and out flux, and that the best way for us to understand astrology is to master our respiration, breathing in, breathing out. This process puts us or allows us to enter harmony with the whole universe and to understand the processes that happen within that universe, to immerse ourselves in what that universe actually is. And next we looked at Kabbalah as the science of the universe, the science of how the universe was created, the science of how to get in touch with all the beings that are within that universe. And we've seen that this provides us with a system by which we can organize our inner work, by which we can get in touch with all those beings that populate the universe. We have seen that the way to do that is to start properly working with the process of thinking, with our intellect. And finally, we talked about magic, saying that true magic, divine magic, consists in putting all one's powers, all one's knowledge into the service for the realization of the kingdom of God on earth. And we have indicated that magic is something that is connected, strictly connected with our gestures, with the way we behold, and that by controlling this, we can easily become white magicians, if we like. Thank you for listening, and see you hopefully next time. God bless you.
Thank you, Richard, for such a revealing presentation. It is astonishing and so inspiring to see how everything we do holds deep spiritual meaning. Each moment has the potential to help us grow, to move closer to perfection. Life truly enriches the soul when we let the Spirit take the lead. Richard will now share some insights from his reading list on today's talk. But first, let me introduce one of the principal works by Ombra Michael Ivanhoff in this fascinating domain: Alchemy, Astrology, Magic, Kabbalah, Aspects of Esoteric Science. This book offers profound insights into these interconnected disciplines. These and additional titles are all in the description provided below.
Let me now share with you some books that you may be interested in reading. This book developed the subject of the 4 sacred sciences that we have been talking about. On the topic of alchemy, the first book I would like to recommend to you is from the Isvo series with the title True Alchemy, or The Quest for Perfection. As you can see, it is purple in color. In this book, Master Omra Michael Ivanov explains that true alchemy is in no way something that proceeds from formulas or other more or less hermetic magic practices. He says it is a work of the mind on matter, our matter, an inner transmutation that takes place through the union of wisdom and love. And for this, we must discover all the resources that are in us and of which we are not aware, in order to transform all the evil we have done and that we also do into gold. That means transmute into gold, and that is to say in pure light. So, the second book I would like to recommend to you is from the series Complete Works, and it has the title Spiritual Alchemy. In this very interesting book, true alchemy is shown to consist in working with the 2 masculine and feminine principles that act in all creation and in the human being himself. And these are the will representing the sun and the imagination representing the moon. So, with these 2 virtues, we manage to transmute our own matter and become radiant and pure. Then we can hope to obtain all spiritual powers. Now, on the topic of astrology, the book I would like to recommend to you is from the Isvo series, the pocketbook series. The title is The Zodiac, Key to Man and the Universe. In this book, a key question is asked: do the stars have an influence on our lives? And Master Omra Michael Ivanov, if you read the book, he explains that when we are born, we enter the zodiac, and at that moment, a kind of photographic snapshot is taken. But as he points out, even more interesting is to see in astrology a system of symbols that allows us to understand the mechanisms of our psychic life in connection with the universe in whose image we were created. Very interesting indeed. Now, on the topic of Kabbalah, the first book I would like to recommend is from the Isvo series, the pocketbook series. It carries the title Angels and All the Mysteries of the Tree of Life. This really is a book that depicts and discloses a set of lighthouses on the path that leads us to God. If you are interested in the concept of the Tree of Life, this is a must-have. The second book I would like to recommend to you is from the Complete Work series, and it has the title, we are still in the same topic of Kabbalah, The Fruits of the Tree of Life, the Kabbalistic tradition. This is a book that showcases a system that accounts for the origin and structure of the universe. And it is presented in a very clear, precise, practical way. On the topic of magic, what I would like to recommend is a book from the Isvo series, a pocket book indeed. It is called The Book of Divine Magic. It's a book that showcases the fact that real magic is a well understood life. And reading this, you understand the following thing. Beyond the images of grimoires and more or less obscure formulas, true magic is a science, that of vigilant observation in all our activities, because our actions, feelings, thoughts, or words necessarily produce effects, positive or negative. You also will understand one thing, and that is that real magic consists in generating only beneficial effects for us and for the others. I hope you will enjoy reading all these books. They truly deserve you reading them. Thank you very much.
If you've enjoyed this episode, stay tuned for the next and last episode in this season. It's a special episode in that it explores the concept of fraternity through interviews with individuals from diverse backgrounds who have embraced the teaching of Omram. Anatole will interview 7 brothers and sisters from Australia, Belgium, Germany, Mexico, Romania, and the United States of America. Some of them also experience life at the fraternal centers in different countries. Stay tuned for inspiring insights and reflections on building a more peaceful, connected world. See you in 2 weeks. Stay safe and stay connected.